Zoological Society this year, and last year.
A little louder.
Probably next year.
Forevermore.
Forevermore.
As long as we can strong arm her into it.
So as
I just said
mentioned
forevermore.
earlier, we had a last minute cancellation with our speaker, so.
Kayla, we can't hear you back here. Talk a little louder.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about frogs today. It's going to be super brief, and then we'll do kind of like questions, and then what I call answers. Okay, so the important part with this one is I am not an expert. I have been keeping frogs for over a decade. We're not going to get to the exact number, but I'm not an expert. This is just what I do as a compilation of information from multiple sources, and it's what has worked for me. So it is not like, you know, the Bible on how to keep a frog. Okay, so really quickly, because I know this part is probably boring to most of you, what is a frog? So frogs are amphibian vertebrates. They comprise the order Anura. They are tetrapods. So they are all extant and extinct amphibians. And so tetrapods eventually turned into everything else. So all the other reptiles, mammals, everything else along the line. So technically you are, in a sense, descended from a frog at some point. So I put up their scientific classification if anyone is interested. It's a lot of words I can't say. Frogs are the largest and most diverse group of amphibians. Depending on what source you want to cite, there are somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 known species, with an average of about 10 being discovered every year. So there's a lot, and there's a lot more. And then fun fact, all toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads. So when we're talking about frogs, we're also talking about toads. I love phylogenetic trees. I won't stay too long on this, but this is the tetrapods we were talking about, and then how they eventually led to lizards, snakes. The Tarantula is a whole other lecture. Those are pretty cool too. But anyway, so as I said, we are all technically descended from amphibians at one point. We're all vertebrates. So really quick, I know most of you probably understand the life cycle of a frog. Eggs, tadpole, frog, right? Pretty simple. Yeah, but they can get a little more complicated. There are frogs that give live birth. So straight to tiny little froglets. They skip the egg and they skip the tadpole cycle entirely. There are frogs that lay eggs and they hatch into little froglets and skip the tadpole phase. There are even some, and then how they take care of their young, because most species do actually care for their young in some capacity. They're anywhere from, you have giant African bullfrogs where the males will guard over the egg nests and the tadpoles and create divots for water to flow if their nest starts to dry out where the tadpoles are living. Some species of dart frogs, the male or the female, depends on the species, they will actually carry the tadpoles on their backs up trees and to deposit them in plants that have water in it. It keeps them away from predators. Some of them will sometimes then even guard the eggs and the tadpoles. And then there is one species that I, of course, cannot remember the name of right now that is completely wild. The female implants the eggs in her back, and the skin grows over them, and then they hatch and they grow out of her back. And she's alive and she's fine for this process. That's an extreme form of parental care, to actually plant your babies in your back. It is wild to watch them like erupt from mom's back. It is something else. I should have gotten a video of it, but I don't know too much about them.
I've seen the videos, I don't know.
Yeah, it's wild.
The Suriname toad?
Yes.
Yes, I think that's what it is.
You were right. See, I knew it. I just couldn't remember it. Thank you. Yeah, they are. That is crazy. Okay, so other than that, everyone kind of knows how the majority of them do it. So, yes, this slide is blank because I brought physical visual aids. So quickly, and like I said, this is going to be quick. Just some of my products that I personally like using. I'm going to start by saying I'm an Arcadia fan. Yes, Kathy.
Are there frogs that are mouth breeders or mouth brooders?
Yes, there are frogs that will carry their young in the vocal sac. So it's the males that do that in the vocal sacs, and they will hatch and tadpole in there until they will crawl out as little bitty frogs. The males don't eat during this time. Once they all hatch, the male goes back to eating, and he's also fine through that process. So anyway, I am an Arcadia fan, so I use a lot of Arcadia products. That's just me personally. They're probably not really any better than anything else. I do, with all my frogs, provide UVB of some form. It's always going to be the forest, so like a 6% UVB. You don't want the really high 12%. They use like a bearded dragon or other lizard. There's no real science that says it's valuable to them, but they get it in the wild. So I want to provide it for them. I find that they do better with UVB. Something else that I use a lot are under the tank heated pads, except I almost never put them under the tank. I put them on the side. But when you're using an under the tank heat pad, you need to use a thermostat. Thank you. Thermostat. Which means you're also going to need a bunch of these digital thermometers, hydrogeners. I usually put 2 of the ones with the little probes in per enclosure, and then I put at least 1 digital thermometer and then a digital hydrogener in as well per enclosure. And then I also use a digital temperature gun as well. I really like to keep an eye on them. Moss, something else you are always going to need sphagnum moss. I can't think of a single species where you're not going to want some sort of moss in their enclosure to help keep humidity. Other than that,
Do you ever do the live moss, or do you only do?
no, I do. I use live moss. Yeah, I do semi bioactive enclosures. I don't do like the drainage layer, mostly because I don't know what it's supposed to do. But I do like the live dirt with the cleanup crew, springtails, isopods, live plants. So the other thing that you're going to want if you're going to keep frogs is a dechlorinator for the water. They are ridiculously sensitive to water condition. A dirty water bowl will kill your frog. So you're going to want to change the water out at least once a day. I'm not going to lie, I don't measure when I do it. I have a big spray bottle that I fill up with water. I put some of the dechlorinator in it. I've never measured it. I just do some. It seems to work. And then water bowls get filled up from that. Misting gets done from that. So that I always know that the dechlorinator's in there, because that was a mistake I made in the beginning. And I lost frogs because I did not pay enough attention to their water condition.
I use distilled water with good luck also.
Yes, distilled water is another option.
It costs a lot more.
It costs a lot more, but mostly I'm lazy. I can get water from the tap, this tiny little bottle. It's a lot less. I also don't have a lot of storage room to store the amounts of water I require every day for my frogs. I probably go through a gallon or more of water a day for them.
Is there no filter system that you can use to filter the water, so you aren't changing it daily, or?
So for some species, you probably could do some sort of filter system, but most of them you're just using like big soaking bowls.
Okay.
So it would be a little,
Too much.
yeah, it would, you could totally do it, it would be way too much work, in my opinion. But again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it probably depends on the size of
And-
the enclosure you have. to take
There are
up.
some frogs that a lot of people will keep over water. So like the bottom of the enclosure is just all water, like no,
Or the
substrate.
paludarium. I've seen the paludarium.
yeah, so something like the paludarium, so that would definitely be beneficial in like that kind of situation. I've never done it. The species I have, I don't trust to swim. So most of the frog species that you're gonna keep in captivity, like the widely available ones, yeah, you can get some of the more fun exotic ones. Room temperature is about what they need. It can go a little bit warmer. Where I keep my frogs, it's pretty warm, so I never needed anything bigger than the Zoom Ed Nano. And like 25-watt bulb, I've never needed anything bigger than I had in this. I've never needed anything bigger. If it's cold or in your house, you may, but frogs also dry out very quickly, so you want to be really careful. You're not using too much. You're better to have not enough than too much. Also, I recommend that you set your enclosure up for weeks, plural, before you add a frog to that enclosure, because you want to know what those temperatures, because 10 minutes in the wrong temperature for some species, your frog's dead. Now, there are also some other frogs where they're like bulletproof and you have to like really try to kill them, and which I don't suggest. But like they're a lot more forgiving.
No further.
Yeah,
All right, well, we had enough of that crap. And I swear that wasn't like a, I'm not paid by Arcadia, because you're about to see it again. I just really like their products, I trust them.
Get disclosure, you're not
Oh yeah, because
sponsoring.
this is gonna get worse. Okay, so another important, what did I say? Thing with any reptile is your supplement schedule. There are probably 4,000, 1,200 different ways to use supplements for your frogs. I do it on an 8-day supplement cycle. So I use the Earth Pro A, which is the dietary supplement, at every feeding except for 2 feedings in that 8-day period. Why I chose 8 days, 7 would have made more sense, but why do it when you can do it easy? On the 4th feeding, I do the Calcium Pro with magnesium. And then on the 8th feeding, I do the Revitalized D3. Arcadia supplements are safe to use at every feeding. There are some that you don't want to use calcium at every feeding because it's a stronger version of the calcium, from what I understand. Again, this is where the not an expert thing comes in. This is just what I understand. And they come in fun little bags. Calcium, magnesium, dietary supplement. And I don't know why, in the name of God, they put it in this giant bottle when you don't use that much of it. But the ones you use more frequently is in a little bag. Doesn't make sense, but we'll go with it. Okay, so that's the boring part done. So, white street frogs. Whoops, what did I do?
So with the calcium, can you put it in their water, or do you have to put it on their bugs?
No, you should put it on your bugs because you don't want anything muddying up that water source. And I've never used liquid calcium with my frogs. I'm always afraid that they're going to they absorb everything through their skin. I'm afraid they're going to absorb too much of it too quickly. Too much calcium can cause heart failure. Which is another reason I really like the Arcadia, because it is safe to use. Like, you're not going to over supplement like you can with some other brands. Okay, that part is done. White street frogs. These are the first species that I ever started with. They are my favorites by far. So you're gonna see this a lot. The minimum enclosure size is gonna be an 18 by 18 by 24. You're gonna wanna go bigger, because these things are like potato chips. There's no such thing as 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or 5. You're gonna want them in every color. So again, their temperature's pretty easy to maintain. They should have a basking area of somewhere between 82 to 84 degrees. Their general air temperature, which is why I have so many different measuring systems all throughout the enclosure, is about, that's probably a little warmer than room temperature. Where I could keep them, that is about room temperature, 74 to 76. At night, they can stand drops. And if you're gonna breed, they require those drops. But I just do it because that means I don't have to have a night pool. Humidity for these guys, 50 to 60%, or 50% with spikes up to 70 is like right after you're misting or not a higher spike. I spray about twice a day, seems to do it for me. Some people set up the really elaborate mister and systems. I've never found a need to. And then feeding, so the feeding is gonna go for every species we're gonna talk about tonight. So I only put it on the one slide, but it's gonna, across the board. Juveniles, you're gonna wanna feed daily. If you miss a day, it's probably not the end of the world, but they're better off eating on a daily basis. Adults, 2 to 3 times a week. So these are all my personal frogs. I couldn't resist.
When's the breaking point when you know they're adult stage, size-wise?
I do it based on size, but again, it's just kind of like, okay, you've been at a stable size for, a while, like I'm gonna go with you're an adult. There's probably some scientific like age or size or weight, but I just kind of, and you can also tell when they're less mobbing the front, especially the white tree frogs, when they're not mobbing the front of the glass door every day, you're like, okay, you're probably ready to start feeding less frequently.
Are those your photos?
These are all my frogs, yes.
Oh, that's cool.
This guy is the first frog I ever owned. Found him in the backyard in my dog's mouth.
Oh my god.
His name is Poe, but
And that's
he
a
was
white-
actually a sheep.
A
A white tree frog, so they're native to Australia, so it's definitely not a wild frog. Someone likely let it loose or it escaped.
So you found it in your dog?
I found it in my dog's mouth. It had a broken leg that had healed incorrectly. So this is the only time I didn't go with my 18 by 18 24 enclosure because she could not climb. So we went for like a long enclosure because she could like stumble and kind of hop around. She just wasn't good at height. So does Poe. She lived for a long time even though I made a lot of mistakes with her. I did things that you should not do with frogs because I didn't know any better. This was about 15 years ago. My first reptile didn't know anything about them. She would go to the grocery store with me, right on the cart handle. Yeah, things you don't want to do with your frog. Do not do that. I would have her out while I was doing like my college coursework. She liked to knock the calcium bottle over and like roll in it. I also have a really cute picture of her like sitting on top of a Pepsi bottle. Anyway.
Did you put your Pepsi?
She better not have stole my Pepsi. I would not have been happy. It would have had problems.
So that 18 by 18 by 24 is 24 tall?
Yeah, so, 24 tall. Okay. These are not my frogs. In fact, these are not actually real pictures. They are animated pictures mostly. I want to preface this with, do not let your frog get that fat.
Yeah.
That is not normal. Yes, they are big frogs. They're not supposed to be that fat. No, don't do it. Don't let them get that fat. They will eat until they die. Do not let them get that fat. Anyway, the reason I threw this up here is because white tree frogs come in a lot of morphs, I guess would be the word. You have the golden flakes, you have super snowflakes. If anyone finds a melanistic plum, let me know. They also have a newer one that's like a camo version. They're not really being bred in the United States yet. However, if you find either of those two, let me know. You have the golden, you have the honey blues, you have honeys, and then so this Indonesian one up in the top corner, We're gonna ignore him. They are very similar. They are a different species. Their care is supposed to be identical. I've never dealt with them. I know nothing about them. So they look the same. The care is supposed to be the same. Size is the same. Don't know. So these frogs get to about 4 to 5 inches. Females will always be bigger and fatter than their male counterpart. Oh, can someone bring my cell phone? It might be in my purse if it's not hanging out there. Yeah. There's a reason behind this, I promise. I'm not just attached to it at the hip. Okay. If you don't like this noise at all hours of the day or night, white tree frog, not for you. They will do it to everything. The baby crying, frogs start croaking. Vacuum cleaner, frogs start croaking. Dog barks, frogs start croaking. And somehow I ended up with a disproportionate number of males versus females, so there's a lot of croaking. That made it sound it is loud. Like you will hear it across the house. So, next. Amazon milk frogs, also called Mission golden-eyed tree frogs. I don't know who calls them that. I've never heard them called that before. But apparently, they are. So again, 18 by 18 by 24 enclosure. You're gonna want bigger. These guys get about the same size as the white tree frogs, just not as rotund. They tend to stay a little more narrow. Temperatures are very similar. Basking area, I mean, you all can read, it's up there. Humidity is a little different, 50 to 70%. Juveniles do like it a little more humid, about 70 to 80%. Okay, and this is big with these guys. Air ventilation, air movement is essential for these guys. Stagnant air will kill your frog. It is a really big no-no. These are not my frogs, by the way. I stole these from Google. We do have some babies that Melanie hatched out that you guys can view after the presentation. They're adorable.
The white tree frogs,
Yeah.
there is somebody that breeds the camels in Florida.
And where?
Florida.
Oh, Florida. Yeah.
The plums also.
The plums also. Yeah, I don't want to know what they cost.
200.
Oh, really?
Presentation over.
Yeah. That is not actually the most I've ever paid for a white tree frog. It wasn't on that list, but it was a golden fleck. Actually, I have another one that I got as just a regular, and it ended up being a golden fleck. So this one actually has golden flecks. It's hard to see in the picture, but I paid a lot of money for that one. This one I just happened to ended up turning into a golden fleck.
Now, you might have mentioned this, where are they originally from, white tree frog? Are they from like the Amazon area?
So other than the Indonesian ones, they're from Australia.
Okay, so Australia.
They're an Australian
You will not
species,
find
so
these on this continent.
you will not, you should
In the
not.
wild.
In the
Well,
wild.
you found one because you found it in your dog's mouth. Anyway,
Yeah, so also anything that you're gonna be able to get is gonna be captive bred because Australia doesn't export their animals.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, back to these guys. Very similar. I stole those pictures. They are not mine. These are though. These are tiny little babies. More than Mel hatched out. So they are pretty cute. Let's see if I can find the noise that they make. I think it was this one.
That's so cute.
What's interesting, I don't know if you guys can see, but they don't have an air sac down here. Their air sacs, they have one on each side. So it comes out instead of like the traditionally down there. It's not completely unusual among frogs.
Now, do they actually get your white tree frog croaking too?
Oh
If
yeah,
start-
they will feed off each other for sure.
Yeah,
Anything will get their white street frogs going.
yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, I've sneezed in the room and they start sounding off. However, they're really polite. Sorry, I know I'm going off the whites. They really are my favorite. I asked them to stop. Okay, thank you, that's enough. And they stop. So they're really polite about it. I'll let them go for a minute or two and I'm like, hey, I'm done listening to you, can you please stop? And they actually, maybe I'm insane. They hate the sound of my voice and like, oh my God, we're gonna have to hide from this person, I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the Amazon milk frog. Care is very similar. They are very cute. They are this pretty blue with black color and they look like they have pebbles on their back. Love them for that.
Their blood is neon blue.
Okay, I didn't know that. The
Yeah,
blood is
when they
neon
open their
blue.
mouth, you can see the color that their blood is. And I've seen pictures.
I'm gonna
and
need
not
to Google
personally
that because
injured any.
Yeah, that's.
I'm kind of curious now. That's really
Do
cool.
not go home.
I wonder if it has something to do with why their pigment is blue, maybe.
Do not go home and,
Kinda cool.
do not go home and poke his toe now.
No, we will not be self-mutilating the frogs, even though I really do want to see that now.
It's
I will
on-
Google it. I will Google it instead.
Yes, Google it.
Okay, anyway, adorable babies. They're maybe about the size of your thumbnail at this point. Super duper tiny. Mel hatched them. She is like the tadpole wizard. Okay. Next, we have Pac-Man frogs. Oh, sorry. 1 second. These guys, South America. You never know. With some public education these days?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Pac-Man frog, horned frogs, these are not the giant ones that you see. Those are pixie frogs, so that's something different. These guys still do get big. Females can get up to 7 inches. And they have, well, all frogs, most frogs have teeth. These guys aren't afraid to use them. They will make you bleed. Kathy, stop sending crap. Okay, so these are a little different. These are not tree frogs. So you're not gonna want an enclosure that is tall. So for these guys, I go with a 24 long, 18 deep. I like the 18 high because they will climb up on this stuff, so I like to give them that option. This is probably the one species where you're not gonna hear me say bigger is always better. These guys are boring. They're cool, I love them, don't get me wrong. They're boring. They don't do anything. They sit, they wait. A lot of times they won't even go find their own food and they want you to bring it to them.
Yeah.
I don't know how they survive in the wild. They're also a South American species. Their temperature, again, a lot of frogs have a lot of the same temperature requirements. They're very similar. These guys can do a little more humidity because a lot of times they will just be buried.
Do they have the teeth like the pixie frogs do?
Same, yeah, so they're very closely related to pixie frogs from what I understand. But they just don't get as big and they are a different species, but a lot of the things are very similar about them. Males stay a much more manageable size. Usually the biggest a male will get is about 4 inches. Like I said, females get huge. You'll see people feeding them things as big as like pinky mice. This is probably controversial, I'm gonna say it anyway, don't do it. There is no, yes, in the wild, if they can get a mouse, they might eat one, but you're just gonna end up with fat, lazy frogs. They're lazy anyway in captivity. But then you feed them something that has as much nutrients as like a pinky mouse, and
So what would
They
eat
don't
in
eat
the
it.
wild?
in the wild, they're gonna eat the same thing any other frog is gonna eat, bugs.
So bugs and maybe other small lizards.
Other small, they might eat small lizards, they might eat other frogs. You do not want to co-house these things, they will eat each other.
No,
Oh,
that just kind of hit upon my question because I thought the enclosure size I seemed really large and just raised the question of cohabitation, but you
Nope.
just answered, yeah.
and the reason I have that big of an enclosure on there is because if you have a 7-inch female, they still need room to walk and move around, and they will hop up on things. Yeah, 7 inches, think about that. That's a big ass frog. I mean, they make bigger frogs, but that's pretty big. You do want, a decent sized enclosure. Anyway, They come in dozens, maybe hundreds of morphs at this point. These are just some of them. They have a really strange morph going on right now. It's called a mutant. And then there's a bunch of different colors within that mutant. It just means that it's not normally something you would see or breed for. They're kind of like a translucent E. They're pretty wild too. Looking like, they're interesting. Okay, so last slide, I swear these are my new favorite things on earth. These are bumblebee toads. So these guys are also from South America.
Yeah.
A lot of the frogs that you will get in the pet trade, at least in the United States, are going to be South American frogs. You do have frogs from others, but the majority ones that you're going to see, the novice keeper keeping, are going to be South American species. These are also ground dwellers. These are tiny. A big female, and I mean a big female, maybe 1.5 inches. So these are very tiny, which is why I have them in a 20 long, 10 deep, 12 high enclosure. That is enough for 4 to 6 frogs, honestly. A lot of people will keep them in critter keepers, like the really big ones, but I don't like plastic and heating elements. It makes me nervous. Temperature, again, like everything else, they can tolerate, well, they're fairly tolerant. Supposedly, they can tolerate from like upwards of like 40 degrees to 90 degrees. I personally wouldn't ever keep them at those extreme ends. That seems like you're asking for trouble. Humidity, 50 to 60%, which is pretty standard among frogs. And that's it.
The one had red on it, was that just a different morph?
Oh, no, so not actually a morph. When they get adults, they actually, I don't know if it's just males or females. I don't know if it's only appears during breeding time, but they will get like kind of like little red toesies, like on the underside of their toes. The one thing I will say with bumblebee toads is there are two, I haven't quite figured this out. Some people are saying there's 2 different, so like the scientific name, oh, my mouse is not doing what it's doing on my computer. The scientific name, those seem to be the ones that we have in the pet trade. There is another, but I still haven't worked out if they're 2 separate species that are identical, or if they were classified as one thing and now this is what they're classified as. But if you're getting them right now, this is what you're getting, at least in the United States. These are not commonly kept frogs. This is going to be the least common on this list that we had.
So are they similar to dart frogs then, or are they a type of dart frog?
So no, they're not related. Well, I mean, other than the fact that they're all frogs, they're not really that closely related to dart frogs from what I can tell. Their behavior and size is similar, but they're not poison. They don't really eat the bugs in the wild that would make them poisonous. I suppose they probably could if they really wanted to.
Are they from the same area, or?
Yeah, South America. And these are a communal species. You can have multiple together. Really, the Pac-Man frog on this list was the only one that you cannot cohabitate. So there's not a ton that is really known about keeping these. Not a lot of people keep them. And so a lot of it is just kind of like anecdotal. Hey, this is what I do, this is what's worked, this is what hasn't. With these guys, they're fun. If you don't mind a small-sized frog.
So what's the smallest size frog?
In the world, or
Well, yeah, or in general, pet trade, I would imagine.
in the pet trade, these are probably going to be among the smallest. Because even dart frogs are usually around like the 2 to 3, like, it depends on the species, but yeah, they're about the same size as dart frogs, so about the same.
And is there a particular frog that's smaller than that, or is that?
Oh yeah, there are lots of frogs that are smaller than this, that like they're so tiny, you would never see them in the wild unless you're out there specifically looking for them, really small. And then you have frogs that are
huge?
ginormous.
Bullfrogs, yeah.
Bullfrogs get very big, yeah. Okay, so that's it. So We have a couple people who also keep frogs. So we're gonna kind of open it up to questions. Because like I said, I am not an expert. This is pretty much my knowledge base. So if I don't know the answer, they probably will. So we're kind of gonna just do like a question and answer panel at this point.
I just have a statement. I looked up what would be toads. In Wikipedia, they're called Nomophoniscus stelzneri,
Yes, so
and Josh's frogs calls them Kloppenbaki.
yeah, so what I have determined in my brain at least that has happened is that we thought they were the one that starts with an S, I can't say the word.
Stelzneri?
And then, but if it looks like the lineage that we have, at least captive bred in the United States,
Is different.
are the ones that I had up here.
Okay.
But from what I understand is they're not actually two different lineages. It seems almost like they're thinking they were this one and now they've been reclassified as what we have up here. And that happens with frogs all the time.
It happens
They're
with a lot of reptiles.
a lot of reptiles in general, but I
Yeah,
don't know
plants
hardly
as well,
anything about
yeah.
anyone else. But they're always changing their classification, their order. It happens a lot with the bufo toads. They are always changing those around. And it just, as new information has been gathered.
Here's maybe another stupid question, but what's the difference between a frog and a toad?
Okay, so like I said earlier on the first slide, all
Well, toads are frogs. but not all
exactly.
frogs are
So
toads.
generally speaking, toads do not hop. They're typically a little heavier body, but obviously not always, because these are toads. They tend to be a little drier in their body, like less of a mucosis, is that a word? Mucosy? No, that's not. Mucosy? I don't know. Something like that. Skin, so they tend to be a little drier. They tend to have the warty protrusions a little more frequently than you will find in toads or frogs, which obviously isn't the case because the milk frogs have them as well. So they tend to be, their body skin's a little drier. They don't hop, they walk. I mean, I'm sure they can jump a little bit. Their back legs are not, they're not functional to do the hopping that frogs do. So they're kind of, they might do
Very
a
short hops.
short hop, but most of the time they walk.
Yeah. And they're drier, like you said.
Yeah, so a little bit, but not really a drier environment. They're drier themselves.
Is their skin more bumpy and drier itself, like you said?
Yeah.
But it's not.
So they tend to have that warty look.
Yeah,
Um,
that's pretty typical.
so most
Yeah,
frogs,
some of
they're
them.
not slimy. They're kind of like a tacky feeling.
More of a drier, yeah.
And then toads are they don't have that tacky feeling necessarily that frogs do. Not that you should really touch your frogs because again, they absorb everything through their skin. But if you happen to, or if you have a white stray frog, they don't seem to care. In fact, they will routinely launch themselves at your hand while you're feeding.
Don't lick your toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the difference? If you kick your frog, it turns into a prince?
Yes, don't lick your toad. Most cases, if your pet gets a hold of a toad, you're going to want to go straight to a vet. Most toads are toxic.
Amazon milk frogs will secrete a white substance that they
A
not only
milky
use
substance.
for defense, but it's also a sunscreen.
Yep. So they will secrete it, and you'll actually see them covering themselves in it. It's used as a sunscreen.
It's the name of the milk.
Yep. The milk frog it's like a white milky secretion. Typically, captive bred frogs you won't see them excreting it as a defense. They're pretty used to humans.
Yeah.
They don't get as frightened. But okay. So that is it. If you have any more questions, let me know. Yeah.
For anyone in here, what would be good suggestions for beginner frogs?
White street frogs. They are, for lack of a better word, bulletproof. they're a lot less sensitive to, all frogs, like I said, are sensitive to their water condition. You're never gonna get away from that. But temperature wise, you know, they tolerate a lot. You know, any of the mistakes you're gonna make, you wanna make them with white street frogs because they're gonna be very tolerant.
The American greens are pretty tolerant too. They're,
Yeah, I've never kept the American greens.
that's what we have,
um,
that's what we have, and we've had them probably close to a year, year and a half now, and they've been there, from what, everything that we've read and gathered, they're pretty much identical to the white street frogs, except they're smaller in size and they're native supposedly to the East Coast.
A lot of people will say not a white street frogs because they're technically active at night. However, mine sleep all night and they're active during the day. They're always out and doing something. So I guess maybe some people have some that are, you know, don't really do anything during the, I mean, no frog does much of anything. Except when there's food involved.
Are most more nocturnal or are they kind of between?
A lot of frogs are just because it helps, direct sun, a lot of heat, a lot of sun will dry out a frog. So a lot of them do, you know, early morning, evening, night. I don't know if it's just a captive thing. They kind of, my white street frogs anyway, like I said, they're active all day long. At night, they kind of go into their favorite spots to sleep. They're super personable. I personally have all my white street frogs tom trained, so they feed off the toms. So they all go to their little stations, and that's where they get fed. So I like to do that with them because I know exactly how much each frog is eating. Now that I've had them for decades, a decade or more, I don't worry about that quite as much as I used to, but it's still fun to tom feed them.
Lifespan.
Oh, lifespan. So for pretty much, I'm not sure about the bumblebee toads. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure about the Pac-Man frogs either. But for the white street frogs and the milk frogs, they're gonna go, so you're gonna read a wide variety. Some people will say they should go at least 10 years.
10 plus years.
But the white street frogs, I've known people that have, you know, gotten them to 20. So they're not a short term, like any reptile, they're not a short term pet.
What is it, Pac-Man, like 25 or something?
Yeah, Pac-Mans go about the same length.
I think it's about, I
As-
just thought it was 20 or 25%.
I think it tends to be a little bit shorter than that, mostly because people want to feed them things that they shouldn't be
Right.
eating in captivity. And so they get fat, really fat, and then, you know, just like with people, that's not good, you tend to die.
They're saying bumblebee frogs are like toads, excuse me, for 10 years or more.
Okay, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Oh, and the one thing I did want to mention about the bumblebee toads, they are different from the bumblebee dart frogs. So there's a dart frog, they're similar-ish, not really looking.
Lucamellis.
What?
Lucamellis.
Okay, I don't know what she's saying. It's all Greek.
Species name.
She's like all smart with the Latin back there. So they are actually a completely different species. They're the dart frog, bumblebee dart frogs. They're a little more flashier looking. They seem to be more of like a yellow with black markings, whereas the bumblebee toads seem to be black with yellow markings, sort of. But then, so you have to be careful when you're looking up like information on them that you're not getting the two confused.
But they're probably, like you said,
Similar, there's just a lot less known about the bumblebee dart, the bumblebee, not the bumblebee dart, the bumblebee toads. They're also called walking toads.
So the bumblebee, the bumblebee viper ones, and they're a frog, so they probably jump more than. So do the vipers need higher enclosures then?
So dart frogs, no, they don't really need, you can put them in higher, oh, this is the bumblebees. So they have more of like a trilling noise, which seems to be kind of common among smaller frogs than the big noises. Okay, I am done. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We'll be back there. We also have a couple frogs on display. We have a yellow fire belly toad. And then we actually have some baby milk frogs, so you can see just how tiny these things are. And these things are probably a month out of the water, and they're still teeny tiny.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.